Ethan was kissing me when his brother's widow suddenly called, saying his kitten had diarrhea. I laughed at him for using such a childish excuse, but I didn't expect him to push me away, ignoring my hand cut by broken glass, and rush out the door. In that moment, I finally understood that in his heart, I wasn't even as important as a cat. That kind of pain made me realize for the first time that this man was truly unworthy. I simply bandaged the wound on my hand and began to clear out my belongings bit by bit. It wasn't until one day at the beach that I saw his uncle, bare-chested and carrying a backpack, and Ethan, that it suddenly occurred to me. We were getting engaged tomorrow, he called, his tone indifferent, and said, "The engagement venue is decorated according to your preferences. Remember to be on time tomorrow." But the next second, that familiar voice came from the other end of the line, "Aye. Xiao Miao has diarrhea." Hearing this, Ethan's hand, which had been reaching into my clothes, suddenly stopped. Normally, he hated interruptions during such moments, but he took this call immediately after just one glance at the caller ID. It was his brother's widow, a girl named Luna. Ethan lowered his voice, feigning a gentle tone. "I'll be right there. Don't be afraid, okay?" With that, he withdrew his hand, which was trembling slightly. The hand that had been holding me relaxed slightly, and I lost my balance, falling to the ground. In a panic, I knocked over the mirror, shattering glass everywhere, and blood stained my palms. But Ethan, as if he hadn't seen me, only rushed to put on shorts and a tank top, and without even putting on shoes, he rushed out the door. I sat on the ground in a daze, watching the man I had loved for 3 years leave me, covered in wounds, for the sake of a cat. From the moment he stepped out the door, I suddenly understood in my heart, I should leave. Thinking of yesterday's gathering, I couldn't help but feel a sense of irony. Luna provoked me in front of everyone, smiling and saying, "Grace, do you believe it? If I just call out Aye once, he will definitely come." At that time, I was still stubborn, saying, "He is my man, how is that possible?" But Luna didn't back down at all. She leaned on Ethan's shoulder, feigning tipsiness, and asked him, "Aye, will you ever be annoyed with me? I'm so afraid that one day you will ignore me too. Can you promise me that no matter when I need you, you will come and be with me?" Everyone around us was watching, waiting for a show. Ethan only glanced at me coldly, then reached out to touch Luna's hair. "I will, don't worry." After speaking, he turned to look at me again. "I treat her like a sister, don't make a fuss." His tone was nonchalant, and he even gave me a be sensible look. But at that moment, I really didn't want to be sensible anymore. "I mind," I said. Ethan just smiled faintly. "You can mind if you want. Anyway, I won't change." Luna's provocative gaze sent a chill through my heart. Everyone could see what she was up to, but Ethan pretended not to notice. Afraid she'd get drunk, he kept snatching the drinks from her hand, one after another. Finally, she fell asleep in his arms. At that moment, Ethan finally looked up at me, his gaze serious, and simply said, "Take her home." My heart felt like it was being clenched, both sour and painful. But Ethan pulled me to the stairwell, hugged me, gently stroked my hair, and said with a drunken tone, "Grace, it was because of your WeChat message that my brother had the accident. You owe Luna. I'm paying off your debt. Do you understand? I promised my brother I would take care of her, and I can't break my promise. In this world, the person least qualified to mind me and Luna is you." I've heard these words more than once, every time I explain that I didn't send that WeChat message. He doesn't believe me. That day, Luna asked me to go shopping. Her phone was dead, so she borrowed my phone to send a WeChat message to her boyfriend. She imitated my tone and sent a message saying, "Help, Luna is in trouble." At that time, her boyfriend was with Ethan. The two of them panicked and sped off in a car, resulting in an accident. Ethan survived, and the first thing he said when he opened his eyes was, "Is Luna okay?" I hugged him and cried uncontrollably. But his second sentence became my eternal nightmare. "Are you satisfied that your childishness killed my brother?" No matter how many times I explain, he won't listen. But Luna can make him believe with just a few words, because in his heart, Luna is sensible and well-behaved and would never make such a joke. While I am playful and willful, so it must have been me. Back in the present, Ethan, reeking of alcohol, lowered his head and kissed me as he used to. He nuzzled my lips and said softly, "Grace, take care of Luna with me, okay? You'll always be number one in my heart." His eyes were red, with a hint of pleading. He always looked like this when he wanted to soften me up. Indeed, before Luna appeared, he really did spoil me rotten. Thinking of this, my anger gradually dissipated, and I compromised once again. I thought, maybe I could give him another chance, but fate gave me no more chances. The wound on my hand was still bleeding, and he didn't even look back. "We're getting engaged tomorrow," but when Luna said, "The cat has diarrhea," he left me and ran off. I finally understand that no matter how much I love him, I can't let him humiliate me like this. I gritted my teeth and disinfected the wound, only to see a photo from Luna, Ethan holding the cat in his arms. With warm yellow light in the background, he was wearing a casually chosen tank top and shorts, the loose waistline revealing a section of his firm abs. %% Luna left a message under the photo. "Grace, I won. I told you, no matter what, he would leave you and come to me with just one word from me. Can you guess what it feels like to be held by a man like this? It must be amazing when he torments people. Or, should I try it for you?" I stared at my phone, my stomach churning, and reached into the trash can. Enraged, I slammed the phone down, enduring the pain as I rebandaged the wound. Strangely, I felt less miserable. For 3 years, Luna has provoked me. It's not that Ethan doesn't know, he just pretends not to see it every time. He's counting on my soft heart, convinced that I love him too much to leave. As long as I still feel guilty, he can forgive Luna again and again, and make me back down again and again. But this time, I don't want to endure it anymore. I opened my computer, clicked on the email inviting me to teach in Tibet, and replied, "I'm willing. In 10 more days, I can completely leave this suffocating man." That night, I just wanted to get a quiet night's sleep. But before long, Ethan came back with Luna. He turned on all the lights, yanked the covers off, and dragged me up. The little rabbit I had cherished for 12 years was carelessly trampled under his feet. Ethan's expression was uglier than I had ever seen. He gritted his teeth and questioned me. "Why did you call Luna a bitch?" "Grace, who exactly is the bitch?" He said. "Luna only has Little Meow now. Do you know that Little Meow is the cat she raised with my brother? Do you know how afraid she is of losing Little Meow now that it's sick? You don't know anything, yet you send a WeChat message in the middle of the night calling her a bitch. Grace, when did you become like this? You've gone too far." Luna hugged the kitten behind him, her head slightly lowered, her eyes red. She was nothing like the way she had just sent me a WeChat message, all smug, acting like I had bullied her terribly, saying, "Grace, I sent you the photos just so you wouldn't overthink things. Nothing really happened between AE and me." He was almost crying. "How could you just start yelling at me? I promise you, even if I'm dying, I won't ask AE to come keep me company anymore, okay?" Tears fell from his eyes. And Chen also tenderly reached out to rub his cheek, putting his arm around his shoulder and saying, "Silly, what are you talking about? Whenever you need me, I'll be there." Hearing those words, I was momentarily stunned. In the past, whenever I was wronged, Chen would hold me like that and say, "Silly girl. Whenever you need me, I'll be there." But now I needed him to listen to my explanation. But he hugged someone else tighter, his eyes filled with unconcealed disgust as he said to me, "Grace, don't try to explain. Explaining is just covering up. You've disappointed me too much. I've told you countless times not to bother with Luna. Can't you understand? I just treat her like a younger sister. Does your mind have to be so dirty to imagine things, no matter how good I am to her? It's just to help you atone for your sins." He said the nastiest things to me, and I took out my phone to prove myself, wanting to show him the few words Luna said. But the words Luna sent in the phone had already been retracted by him, and only the sentence I sent was left in the phone. "You are such a bitch." In a fit of anger, I raised my hand to slap Luna, but before the slap could land, my hand was knocked away. Chen also protected Luna. He looked at me, his eyes cold, and said slowly, "Grace, I think the one who's being cheap is you." Ethan's lips curled with a bit of sarcasm. "Have you forgotten that since your parents died unexpectedly, you clung to me and said you couldn't live without me, begging me to get engaged to you? I felt sorry for you, and I thought about the years we grew up together. So I agreed to you. You shouldn't have been so greedy. You were the one who begged me. You were the one who had to have me. You were the one who wouldn't let me go. You were the one who insisted on sticking to me. But Luna isn't like you. Luna is a very measured girl. I lowered my eyes and couldn't help but chuckle. Chen also. We've been childhood sweethearts for over 20 years. You used to love me, protect me, and promise to be good to me for the rest of your life. But now you're hugging and crying with another woman, calling me a bitch. I loved you with all my heart for so many years, and I forgave you countless times. I really am cheap. At this moment, I feel that there is no point in explaining. I looked up at Chen Yi coldly, only to feel that he was becoming unfamiliar, seeing my cold gaze. Luna glanced at me and said, Yi, don't say that. Grace is just too in love with you. Luna's eyes were so provocative that she didn't even bother to hide it. He has already said that about you. Chen Yi blurted out, Grace, when can you have Luna's magnanimity? When will you stop being unreasonable? After Chen Yi said these words, he didn't look at me again, and he never cared whether I was splashed with the dirty water he threw on me. He asked the nanny to arrange a guest room for Luna. He held Xiao Miao in one hand and pulled Luna with the other, saying, You will live here from now on. If anyone doesn't like you, tell them to get out. Luna turned her head to look at me with a raised chin, her eyes triumphant. She deliberately asked Ethan, Yi, aren't you afraid that Grace will be angry? Ethan said, If she wants to be angry, let her be angry. In a few days, she will coax herself and come to apologize to me. I have indeed coaxed myself. I am busy preparing for the teaching support program. There are too many things to prepare, so I can't be bothered to be angry with you. You don't deserve it at all. In just 9 days, I can leave this place completely. I don't want to get married anymore. It is more important than anything else for you two to live a good life. Don't say that I am narrow-minded anymore. You are no longer qualified to have my heart or my mind. I had Mr. Lewis cancel all engagement-related matters overnight. He asked if he should ask the young master about it. I looked at the two intertwined figures on the second floor, smiled, and said no need. Master Chen is busy playing with the kitty. He has no time. The next day, Chen didn't get up until nearly 10 o'clock. He seemed to have forgotten that today was supposed to be our engagement day, so much so that when he got up, he only asked Luna if she had slept well last night, without mentioning the engagement at all. Chen is just that kind of person. When he loves you, he remembers everything about you with all his might. When he doesn't love you, he won't even remember your last name. An engagement like this, he probably doesn't want to remember at all. I breathed a sigh of relief. It's good that he forgot. Anyway, I don't care anymore. And I don't want to bother with him for the rest of these days. Mr. Lewis hesitated for a long time, finally finding a chance to ask, Ethan, young master, do you have anything to do today? Chen also glanced at me, his eyes blank. Just when I thought he remembered, he looked at Luna again and said softly, Yes, I'm taking little Meow to get vaccinated today. His words silenced Mr. Lewis, whose face turned liver-colored, and he looked at me sympathetically, shaking his head gently. As I was burying my head in my porridge, a sudden bang rang out, and Luna smashed the ceramic bowl I made with my own hands. It was the first ceramic bowl I ever made. And also the first gift I gave to Ethan, which he was always reluctant to use. Placing it in the middle of the dining table, he said, Let this bowl witness every meal and season of our future. Luna knew this too, but now he was so anxious that he couldn't even tolerate a bowl. Luna glanced at me as he smashed the bowl, then fell back in fear. Ethan rushed forward and caught him. Seemingly afraid that I would cause Luna trouble because of it, he preemptively said, It's just a bowl, silly boy. What are you so afraid of? Who would dare say half a word about you because of a bowl? After saying that, Chen also raised his eyelids and glanced at me. I suddenly found it ridiculous. I hadn't said anything. And he had already imagined that I would make things difficult. Luna's methods. Luna's eyes were also red, and she apologized to me while crying. Grace, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. While apologizing, she knelt down to pick up the pieces. This bowl is a testament to your feelings with Grandpa. I'm so sorry. Before she finished speaking, she had already scraped her hand and made it bleed. Chen Yi frowned slightly, immediately crouched down, held his finger, and shouted to the nanny. Quickly bring disinfectant and a band-aid." His tone was anxious and distressed. When the nanny rushed over, Chen-yi coaxed Luna like a child, helping her disinfect and apply a band-aid, his movements gentle and delicate. I looked at my left hand wrapped in gauze and smiled. "You see, it's not that he doesn't understand, he just doesn't want to be moved by me." I looked at the shattered bowl on the floor and felt a strange sense of relief. My life with Ethan hadn't even started and it was already over, which was fine. That way, I wouldn't have to take a bowl with me when I left. After all, walking away with a bowl isn't a good omen. The image of me leaving with a bowl flashed through my mind, and I chuckled to myself. Luna, however, trembled with fear at my laughter and shrank into Ethan's arms. I was disgusted and couldn't help but say, "It's just a bowl, it's broken. So what? Do you have to keep acting?" This sentence made Ethan suddenly stand up and push me away. "Enough, Grace, Luna is already hurt, and you're still making sarcastic remarks." He pushed me with great force. Caught off guard, I crashed into the table beside me. My hand, wrapped in gauze, supported myself on the table, tearing the wound open again, and bright red blood stained the snow-white gauze. Ethan finally noticed my injury. He frowned, his gaze finally falling on the red. "Your hand is injured. When did this happen?" His expression changed several times, and just as he was about to come over, my other hand buzzed and scraped. Even the nanny standing nearby saw through this trick, but Ethan skipped it in a second. I squatted down, and he subconsciously said what he used to say only to me. "Silly, why are you so careless? It hurts my heart when you're like this." Ethan held Luna's hand, looking at it carefully. Luna mouthed something to me. He said, "I won again." I sneered, not wanting to watch his performance anymore, and went straight back to my room. Since I was leaving, I needed to take care of my affairs. After my parents passed away unexpectedly, Mrs. Cole took pity on me and allowed me to live in the Chen family home. Since then, the Chen family has been all I've had. It suddenly occurred to me that Ethan and I never seemed to have confessed our feelings to each other. Our being together seemed to happen naturally and as a matter of course. Everyone thought I should marry Ethan and depend on him for the rest of my life. Over time, even I came to believe it. I suddenly found this kind of subtle influence terrifying. I packed some small, trivial items into a box, and Shin-chan walked in, then called out to me in a muffled voice, "Grace, is your hand okay?" I understand Ethan. His behavior means he's giving me a way out, and it also means he's trying to coax me. Before, he only needed to ask me once, and I would throw away all my dignity and rush into his arms, coquettishly making him promise never to do it again. Now, he habitually opened his arms slightly, waiting for me to pounce, but I just kept my head down, packing my things, tearing up the old photo booth pictures we took together a long time ago and throwing them into the trash. Seeing that I didn't move, he glanced at me, retracted his lowered posture, and said, ungrateful as always. He saw his torn-up photo booth pictures, and he suddenly squatted down and asked, "What are you doing? These are all blurry. You don't want them anymore." I didn't look up, tearing the photo booth pictures in my hand into even smaller pieces. "Are you just trying to make a fuss with me in a different way?" I didn't look up, calmly saying, "Whatever you say. Anyway, I'm leaving soon. I don't want to argue with him about these trivial things anymore. What he thinks or says doesn't matter to me anymore." Chen also walked out with a cold face and slammed the door shut. After he left, I started rummaging through my treasure box, which contained all sorts of trinkets my parents had left me, as well as the engagement ring I designed myself. But no matter how much I searched, I couldn't find that little box. I got up and chased after Ethan. "Did you see my little box? That pile of junk, those trinkets, are the only things my parents left me. I've always treasured them and carefully kept them." Chen has laughed at me several times, saying I'm like a junk collector. I never argued with him, nor did he know that in the years after my parents died unexpectedly, I managed to survive with these trinkets. Did you see it? My eyes were red with anxiety, and my hands were shaking. Ethan casually said that Xiao Miao's toys were forgotten, so he brought my pile of junk for him to play with. Hearing this, my heart felt like it was being tightly gripped, then ruthlessly ripped out and thrown onto the icy ground. I couldn't help but scream. tears streaming down my face. I almost collapsed as I roared, "Why did you give my things to Maro Wang Chen?" He saw me like this for the first time, frowned, and shook off my hand. "What madness are you spouting?" Hearing the commotion, Luna came out holding the cat, which had our engagement ring strung around its neck with a red string. Luna took several steps back when she saw me like that. "Grace, I'm sorry. Please don't blame me. I just wanted to buy some little bells for little Meow recently, so I took your ring to try the size." Hearing Luna's words, Chen seemed to finally understand, and he said, "Oh, so it's for the engagement ring. You couldn't hold back, huh?" I was deliberately not mentioning it. I wanted to see how many days you could resist not bringing it up. The engagement ring was something I asked Lunato put on little Meow. "You are too willful and unreasonable. Not as well behaved and obedient as little Meow." As he spoke, I had already rushed into Luna's room, and then I saw the pile of little trinkets shattered all over the floor. I picked them up one by one with trembling hands, trying to piece them back together. I tried again and again, and they broke again and again. Chen finally realized that I was doing this for the pile of junk he was talking about. He stood in front of me, condescending. "It's just a pile of junk. Is it worth it for you to be like this? Are these things more important than our engagement ring?" He even chuckled and said, "Luna doesn't know you like collecting junk. If you mind, I can always have people remake a pile for you." The more he spoke, the more I couldn't breathe. These things are broken, and so am I. After a few tries, I couldn't bear it anymore. I suddenly got up, grabbed Luna, and slapped her. I roared, "Why did you break my things?" Wong Wong took the opportunity to fall backward, dropping the cat in her arms as well. Bang! Luna knocked over the vase, which landed right on his forehead. Instantly, blood gushed out. Chen crawled over, frantically shouting for 120. He collapsed to the ground, holding Luna, his voice trembling as he said, "Luna, please be okay. Wake up. Please be okay." Luna, before closing her eyes, squinted at me, the look in her eyes saying, "You're going to lose again." By the time the ambulance arrived, I had calmed down. Chen had already carried Luna horizontally to the front of the car, giving me a cold glare and saying, "Grace, you better kneel down and pray that Luna is okay, otherwise I will never let you off." I had seen this kind of look from Ethan when I was 12 years old, when his uncle Nathan hit me with a basketball in the yard. When I fell to the ground, Chen looked at his uncle like this too, staring coldly at the uncle he had always been afraid of, and said, "If Grace is hurt, I will never let you off." Times have changed, and now the person he says he won't let off is me. I suddenly became a little curious. If Luna keeps pretending like this, what would Chen do to me? I squatted down again to pick up those little trinkets, looking at the broken pieces that couldn't be pieced together no matter what, and tears flowed down my face unconsciously, as I cried uncontrollably. A boy's voice came from behind. "Who did this?" I subconsciously turned my head to look, and it was Nathan. He had been abroad for many years. Why did he have to come back tonight? Before I could think too much, he walked up to me. His voice was always cold, and it sounded even more machine-like and cold in the quiet night. "Chen Yi did this." Seeing my face full of tears, he was stunned for a moment, and when he spoke, his voice became a little softer. "Can you please stop crying first?" The precious and aloof man in my memory was now bending over, looking at my little uncle with a loss of what to do. I lowered my head and whispered a greeting, then looked at the pile of broken parts and held back my tears. "It's okay, they're just useless little things." After saying that, I got up and went upstairs. It's been many years since I've seen Chen Yangci. In my memory, he was still the little uncle who would coldly tell me not to be naughty and not to mess around with Ethan. Even though he wasn't that much older than me, I just felt a sense of inexplicable oppression from him. The moment I closed the door, I heard Nathan picking up things. I thought he would throw those little trinkets away. After all, Chen Yangci hated old things the most. Back in my room, I cried for a long time, until I didn't even know what I was crying about. Was I crying about those little trinkets? Was I crying that Chen Yi gave them to the cat to play with? Or was I crying that Chen Yi didn't love me anymore? At midnight, it suddenly dawned on me that I was crying because I was stupid enough to have loved Ethan for so many years. I drowsily slept until early the next morning when my bedroom door was kicked open. Ethan stood by the bed, dark circles under his eyes, staring at me with bloodshot eyes. "Grace, go apologize to Luna." I thought I wasn't awake yet, rubbed my eyes, and suddenly laughed. "Apologize? Why should I apologize to her? He broke my things, he should be the one apologizing." Hearing this, Ethan's voice rose several degrees. "You burned his things, shouldn't you apologize?" As he said this, he kicked the bedside heavily. "You've owed him this apology. Do you know the first thing Luna said when she woke up was to tell me not to blame you? Are your pile of junk more important than Luna?" Looking at Ethan, whose mouth was opening and closing, I was stunned. In fact, I had told him countless times that those things were my life, but he never took it to heart. He was wrong. Luna was wrong. He and Luna destroyed what was like my life first. But he actually forced me to apologize. A stabbing pain came from my chest, and I suddenly felt disgusted, retching. When I got up, I tripped over the cardboard box next to me, and everything inside scattered. Inside were the notes Ethan had written to me from childhood, casually drawn and said he would give to me. I folded them neatly, without a single crease, and collected them all. In the past, I would occasionally take them out to look at our lost innocent years, and to miss the love Ethan wrote to me in those years. I still remember when I was an adult. I lay on Ethan's lap and recited these words sentence by sentence. The boy's eyebrows and eyes curved into scimitars. But now when he saw this pile of things, he raised his foot in disgust and said, "Sure enough, you're a junk collector." I laughed self-deprecatingly and said, "Yeah, they're all junk. I'll take them to the yard and burn them in a fire later." Chen also subconsciously looked up at me and said, "You're willing to part with junk. What is there to be unwilling to part with?" I asked him back. In an instant, he gritted his teeth, stood up straight again, coughed lightly, and said, "Don't change the subject. I'm asking you to apologize to Luna. Grace, you've really gone too far this time. You have to apologize to him." "If I can't." Upon hearing this, Ethan suddenly flew into a rage. "How dare you? What wouldn't I dare?" I looked up and chuckled, turning to leave, but Chen-yi grabbed me. He squeezed my palm forcefully. "You're the one who's wrong. You're the one who hurt people. Why shouldn't you apologize? Why are you being so unreasonable now? You weren't like this before." I inexplicably felt amused and annoyed, wishing I could shout out all my grievances and anger. But what came out was, "Would you have treated me like this before?" My voice was choked with sobs, hoarse and lifeless. No matter whether I was right or wrong in the past, Chen never let me say the 3 words "I'm sorry" when I accidentally broke the precious words of his little uncle when I was a child. Everyone said that I was wrong and asked me to apologize to Nathan, but Chen wouldn't allow it. He protected me behind him like a lion, saying that he was wrong. But I was not allowed to say those 3 words. His unreasonable favoritism made everyone feel angry and funny. Even the usually stern Nathan was amused at the time, pointing at Ethan's head and saying he better protect him like that for the rest of his life. Back then, Ethan pulled me into his hand, promising everyone that he would never let me apologize to anyone in my life. But now, he's holding my injured hand, forcing me to apologize. The pain in my palm tore open, and I couldn't help but hiss. Chen-yi finally felt the dampness in his palm. He let go, looked at the oozing blood, and frowned slightly. After a long while, a trace of apology flashed across his face, which was full of anger just now. "Oh, I forgot your hand was injured." I suddenly found it funny. My hand was wrapped in such a thick layer of gauze, he couldn't see it. When he grabbed my hand, he was so forceful, yet he couldn't feel the gauze soaked with blood, but he could see how much Luna, who wasn't even present, was in pain. "Do you know how much Luna is hurting lying in the hospital bed right now? Do you know she was in so much pain she couldn't sleep all night? If I apologize to you, will you apologize to Luna?" Looking at Ethan's bargaining face, I ignored him. I turned my head and reopened the gauze to clean the wound, seeing that my wound had stopped bleeding. Chen seemed relieved for some reason. He went into the room, grabbed some things, and turned to leave, throwing down a sentence. "When you come to the hospital, remember to bring Luna's favorite soup." I rebandaged the wound, stubbornly packing the things I hadn't had time to pack. "Leave me in Tibet, although there are still 8 days left. I don't want to stay here for a moment longer. Even looking at Ethan makes me sick." But thankfully, it will all be over soon. When I had almost finished packing, I heard heavy footsteps behind me. Thinking it was Chen-yi coming back, I didn't turn around and said, "What? How else do you want to humiliate me? Or are you saying that you not only want me to deliver soup to Luna, but you also want me to give him my life?" There was a moment of silence behind me. I couldn't help but turn around. Nathan stood in the backlight with a cold face behind me, holding my little suitcase. "Who wants your life?" His shadow was stretched so tall and long, and I crouched in his shadow, looking so small. "Uncle," I subconsciously called out, but in an instant, I realized that I was about to break up with Chen-yi. So it didn't seem appropriate to call him uncle anymore. I mustered my courage, stood up, and called out softly again, "Mr. Chen, is that Chen-yi?" I didn't dare look at his face. I just felt that those 3 words of his were frighteningly cold. I didn't know what to say to him, so I simply didn't explain the things that had happened recently. "It's okay, it's all over. Anyway, I'm leaving." Before I could finish speaking, he thrust the small box in his hand into my hand. "Where are you going?" Nathan's series of question marks left me a little bewildered. I took the box and asked him, "You didn't throw it away?" Chen-yi actually hadn't thrown away my old things. He clearly disliked old things the most. I heard Chen also say that Nathan's birth was a turning point for the Chen family's business. At that time, no one could take care of Chen-yi. He ate what his older brother left behind and wore what his older brother left behind. Because Ethan's father and the Nathan brothers were too far apart in age, the things used for Nathan had been stored away by Mrs. Cole for a long time, and when they were taken out, they were covered in a layer of dust. After coming to his senses, Nathan refused to use anything old. After a big tantrum, he burned all his old things and threatened to burn the house down if any of them ever reappeared. But now, when I opened the box, I was stunned. It wasn't just a pile of broken parts anymore, but as lifelike as before, restored without a trace of being broken. In that instant, my heart skipped a beat, and I blinked hard to make sure I wasn't seeing things. I was surprised and happy, touched and puzzled. "You fixed it." I looked up at him, catching the upturned corners of my mouth in the mirror. The setting sun streamed in through the window, bathing us in its light. My low spirits seemed to melt away in that instant, and my whole soul felt like it was being infused with new life. I felt a lot lighter. And when I met Nathan's gaze, my lips curved into a smile. "Nathan," and I spoke almost at the same time, "you haven't answered my question yet." The words were out before I realized how close we were, our breaths mingling. For a moment, the air seemed to still, filled with an awkward yet inexplicable ambiguity. I shuddered in surprise, my ears suddenly burning red, and quickly lowered my head. In my nervousness, I bumped right into his chest. Almost instantly, I felt Nathan stiffen, holding his breath. My mind went blank, and I didn't know when my hands had reached his waist, when suddenly a large hand forcefully pulled me away. Chen must have returned at some point. I had no idea how long he had been standing at the door watching. He grabbed my arm, stared at me breathlessly and asked, "When did you two get together?" This time, Ethan finally knew to avoid my injured hand, and even knew to protect me behind him. He stared at Nathan with bloodshot eyes. "Uncle, when did you come back? How can you just enter Grace's room?" Nathan coughed lightly, and his ear tips quickly returned to normal. He snorted coldly. "Do I need to report to you when I come back regarding Grace's affairs?" For some reason, watching Ethan protect me like a lion, I suddenly wanted to be willful for once. So, I interrupted Ethan's words and pushed him away. I said, "Ethan, my affairs with Nathan are none of your business. Not only can he enter my room, but he can also get into my bed." My voice was not loud, but it exploded in Ethan's ears like a thunderbolt. He suddenly turned around. "His Grace. What nonsense are you talking about?" As he spoke, Ethan's phone rang. The man who had been gnashing his teeth the second before instantly softened. "Luna, what's wrong? I'll be right back." After he hung up the phone, he glanced at me and warned, "Grace, please stop, okay? Stop dragging my uncle into this little charade. Do you think I'll break down because of you too? Let me tell you, that look I gave you just now was the last time I'll cooperate with your acting. Don't do it in front of me anymore. I'm really tired these past few days." After these few days, I'll spend time with you, okay? His tone was impatient, and he lifted his foot to leave. I chuckled softly. I'm leaving in a few days, you should go spend time with your Luna. Ethan had just left when I suddenly received a call from Luna, his voice full of smug provocation. Grace Jie, Ayi has been taking care of me closely these past few days and hasn't had a good night's sleep. When you bring soup for me, remember to bring a portion for Ayi too. Oh, right, Ayi gave me that stone chain, you're not allowed to make a fuss with Ayi about it. Hearing this, I interrupted him. Whatever he wants, whatever you want, I'm not interested in your affairs, don't talk to me about it anymore. I hung up the phone, my eyes stinging, not because of his boasting, but because that stone chain was something I had picked up stone by stone when I was young, polished, engraved, and strung together one by one. Each stone had Ethan's name on it, which wasn't worth much, but it was made by me wearing out all 10 of my fingertips. When I gave it to Ethan back then, he was very touched. He held my hands and kissed each of my fingers, saying, "You silly girl, it hurts me to see you like this. I will cherish this chain and love you, love you, love you forever." But now, the vows of youth are lighter than the wind. My thoughts drifted away, and Shin-chan suddenly snorted coldly, which startled me. I realized he was still there, and remembering what I had just said, I didn't dare to look up, my face growing hotter and hotter, but he seemed to have forgotten the words I had said in anger. After he snorted, he said, "Chen Yi has been treating you like this all these years." I suddenly choked, not knowing how to respond. Seeing that I didn't speak, he looked at the cardboard box in the corner. "Weren't you going to leave, go to the hotel?" I said. He was silent for a moment, and then said, "Hotels aren't safe, come with me." For some reason, there was an oppressive feeling in his words that I couldn't resist at all. Before I could fully react, he had already ordered people to load my things into the car. By the time I came to my senses, he had already stuffed me inside. He leaned over to help me pull the seatbelt, and I instinctively recoiled. He paused for a moment, the corners of his mouth lifting into a smile. He asked me where my courage from earlier had gone. "Didn't I say that not only could I enter your room, but I could also get into your bed?" At that moment, I wanted nothing more than to jump out of the car. Seeing my face flush red, Nathan chuckled and changed the subject. "You're playing with Chen too?" I burst out laughing for no reason. Nathan still speaks economically, just like before. I naturally replied to him, "He's done." I'm not. Nathan, who instantly understood, laughed as well. "Good, that is done. Isn't it nice that you're not afraid of me?" he said suddenly. Nathan and I didn't have much interaction. After my parents passed away unexpectedly, I moved into the Chen family's house, and he started managing me like an elder. When I was naughty as a child, he would always lecture me with a stern face. I was afraid of him, and I was always well behaved in front of him, except for that one time just now. Percent Grace, you've grown up, he suddenly said again, and I was a little stunned. When I turned to look at him, the car had already stopped. Percent Nathan took me to his villa in the suburbs. He took me upstairs, opened the door of the south-facing room, and said, "You'll live here from now on. I'll live across the hall. Call me if you need anything." I lowered my head and didn't speak. He bit his lip, as if holding back a laugh, and said, "Don't worry, I won't come into your room unless I want to die." My face started burning again. As I turned to go back into my room to avoid his gaze, he suddenly gently took my wrist. He called me suddenly, like he did when we were kids. "What do you think of me?" My heart skipped a beat or two. His presence enveloped me completely, and that fragrance kept drifting into my nose. For a moment, I was a little dazed. "Okay," he said suddenly, "get some rest." He opened the door for me gentlemanly and reached out to rub my head like he used to when we were kids. "Think about it tonight and give me your answer tomorrow." Chapter 10. In the hospital. Ethan sat in front of Luna's hospital bed, his eyes vacant and his eyes shadowed. Luna sat across from him, swinging the stone chain he had just given her. The sound of the stones hitting the table making him inexplicably irritable. Although he knew that Grace was just saying that to provoke him, he was still annoyed. After all these years, Grace still hadn't let him into her bed. How could he have just blurted out those words? Especially to someone who was 100 times better than him, his uncle. For the first time, he spoke impatiently to Luna. "Stop swinging it. Can you go to sleep earlier? Luna was distracted by his words. And a small stone that was being swung hit her hand. Luna cried out in a delicate voice, then looked pitifully at Ethan. But Ethan no longer rushed to hold her hand as he used to. I also remembered Grace. Back then, Grace wore down all 10 of her fingertips for this stone chain. They say the 10 fingers are connected to the heart, but Grace didn't utter a single cry. When she gave him this stone chain, he even jumped up with joy. Grace said it was a unique gift. And that no one in the world loved Ethan more than she did. Chen also thought of this, got up, snatched the stone chain from Luna's hand, and said coldly, "Give it back to me." Luna's tears welled up instantly. "Auntie, what's wrong?" But Ethan walked out as if he couldn't hear. Ethan went outside to call Grace. He scrolled through his call history for a long time before finally finding Grace's number. The screen full of the name Luna reminded him that he hadn't called Grace in a long time. And Grace hadn't called him in days either. His heart twinged for a moment, and he frantically opened Grace's WeChat chat page. The last message Grace sent him was on the evening 3 days ago. That night, he had abandoned Grace for a cat, and Grace had sent him a message asking, "Do you love me?" But he was only seeing it now. Chen also felt a tinge of guilt. He quickly typed a love on the screen. But when he was about to send it, his hand paused again. For so many years, he had been used to being arrogant, and it was always Grace who coaxed him. In this relationship, Grace was always the one who lowered her head. He remembered how Grace used to coax him every time they had conflicts, how she would cry and beg him not to break up. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but chuckle to himself. Ethan sneered in his heart, asking himself, "What am I panicking about? Grace can't live without me. What can she do with Nathan?" The thought of his noble and aloof uncle sent a shiver down Ethan's spine. He was practically an unapproachable, inhuman being, and Grace couldn't avoid him fast enough. Thinking this, he returned to the hospital room. Looking at Luna's red eyes, a hint of apology rose in his eyes. "Sorry. I was a little tired just now." Luna smiled through her tears, raising her pitiful face and saying, "I knew you wouldn't have the heart to be mean to me. By the way, Auntie, will Grace bring me soup tomorrow?" When Chen Yi heard this, he suddenly remembered the incident. His subconscious thought was that as long as Grace brought the soup, he would forgive her and make up with her. So he replied, "Luna would, she would definitely send it, and she wouldn't dare not to." In Ethan's view, this was the olive branch he was offering Grace. And he was very confident, and he knew very well how much Grace loved him. Grace would definitely get up in the middle of the night to make soup just to coax him. Chen also remembered the tearful look Grace had whenever she coaxed him, and couldn't help but chuckle, asking him, "Grandpa, what are you laughing at?" Even Ethan himself didn't notice that his eyes lit up when he thought of Grace. "It's nothing, just thinking of some funny people." After Chen finished speaking, he coaxed Luna to sleep, but that night, he couldn't fall asleep. He would get up from time to time to lift the curtains, and occasionally look at the watch on his wrist. The moonlight was all over the ground outside the window, and the night breeze was gently blowing. But Ethan was in no mood to appreciate such a beautiful night scene. All he could think about was, why isn't it dawn yet? As dawn broke, Ethan was already leaning by the window, checking the time. Exactly 6 o'clock. Knowing Grace as he did, she would be arriving any minute. He figured Grace probably hadn't slept a wink last night. Urging the driver to come early, Ethan's hand rested on the windowsill, tapping absently. The thought of Grace setting aside all her temper, her eyes red-rimmed as she begged him, made him want to laugh. He also knew that Grace was actually quite stubborn. Once she made up her mind, not even 1,000 bulls could change it, just like how she was set on him. No matter how excessive his words or how outrageous his actions, Grace would choose to forgive him. Grace's stubbornness would shatter with a single blow in front of him. Thinking of this, Chen couldn't help but smile. Luna woke up at some point and, propping herself up on her elbow, asked her, "Auntie, what are you laughing at?" Ethan's smile froze, and he turned to look at Luna. Luna, however, shyly lowered her head and added, "You're happy because you're thinking about how I can go home from the hospital tomorrow, right?" She emphasized the words "go home." Ethan didn't catch on and casually brushed it off with, "Yeah, that's right." Luna continued to say something, but Chen was already distracted. he stared intently downstairs, feeling that Grace would be arriving soon. Sure enough, a few seconds later, the family's nanny car drove in. Chen raised his hand to check the time, 6:15 p.m. Grace was a full 15 minutes later than he had expected. Ethan's lips curled into a mischievous smile. He thought he would forgive Grace 15 minutes late as well, making sure Grace would always remember this. The moment the car door opened, Chen also stood up subconsciously, waiting for Grace to get out of the car with the soup, but until the car door closed, he didn't see Grace get out. Only the family's nanny got out. At this moment, a burst of anger rushed into Ethan's heart for no reason. He rushed downstairs and opened the car door, looking left and right, searching the car all over. After confirming that Grace was not inside, he kicked the car door hard and asked, "Where's Grace?" The loud noise scared the nanny so much that she almost spilled the soup in her hand. He whispered, "Miss Jiang has moved away." Chen also froze, his hand drooping instantly. How could Grace move away? That was her home. Chen didn't believe it. He got into the car and shouted at the driver, "Go home." The car rushed out like a wild horse. Ethan was both angry and flustered in the car. How could Grace move away? How dare he? How could he? He said this home had the person he loved most, and he would never leave. It was then that Ethan remembered that Grace had also said that if he ever moved away one day, it would prove that he no longer loved the people here. The sentence that popped into his head made Ethan's legs go weak. Before the car had even come to a complete stop, Chen had already yanked open the door and rushed into the villa. He took the stairs 3 at a time, kicked open Grace's room, only to find it empty. The Grace who was waiting for him to come home, who would jump into his arms and playfully whine, was gone. Unwilling to give up, he opened all the cabinets in the room, turning it upside down. After a long while, Chen finally finished his frenzy, finally saw clearly the things that were left behind, every single one of them he had given to Grace. From the diamond necklace he had painstakingly bid for, to the small succulent he had personally planted, Grace had taken none of them. Chen slumped to the ground, the sunlight streaming and stinging his eyes. He suddenly scrambled up and rushed downstairs, grabbing Mr. Lewis by the collar and yelling, "Where's Miss Jiang? Why didn't you watch over Miss Jiang? Who allowed him to move? Tell me where Miss Jiang went." Mr. Lewis was terrified, his face ashen. That was Mr. Lewis. Afraid to say the name. But Chen also suddenly remembered something. "My uncle took him away. When I woke up, it was already afternoon, the sunlight filtering through the curtains, bathing the room in a warm orange-yellow glow. I stretched, feeling completely comfortable. I hadn't had such a good sleep in a long time. After washing up, I suddenly remembered what Nathan had said last night. He told me to think about it carefully and give him an answer the next day, but I slept until the afternoon. Feeling a bit guilty, I quickly finished packing and opened the door, only to bump into a solid chest. I stepped back in fright, and then saw that the person in front of me was Nathan. I habitually opened my mouth, "Good more," but before I could finish, he frowned slightly and interrupted me. "Don't call me uncle. Call me Mr. Chen." For no reason, I blurted out that sentence, and even I wanted to laugh at myself. Chen Yangci was also amused by me and jokingly said, "Is it going to cost you a tooth to call my name?" Hearing that, I laughed out loud. Seeing that I was amused, Chen Yangci seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. He tilted his neck slightly and said, "Okay, let's go down to eat." It seemed like our awkwardness had been broken. While eating, I suddenly remembered the little box. I thanked Nathan, and he naturally said that it was all your treasure, and I would search all over City A to find someone to fix it for you. I took a deep breath and held back the tears that were about to out. He also said that it was the treasure you used to hold every night when you were a child. I was stunned. After my parents passed away, I could only fall asleep by holding this little box every night. But how did he know? Before I could think too much, Nathan brought up yesterday's topic. "Can you answer now how you think I am?" I couldn't figure out what he meant by how. He looked down at me with interest. Just as he was about to speak, his phone rang. I caught a glimpse of Ethan's name and lowered my head to take a sip of water. The phone rang for a while, and Chen Yanci answered with a frown, speaking concisely. However, it wasn't Ethan's voice on the other end of the line, it was Mr. Lewis's anxious and flustered voice. He said that the young master had fainted at home. He suddenly rushed home to find Miss Jiang, ransacked Miss Jiang's room, and then fell down the stairs while rushing downstairs. Oh, Chen Yanxi uttered a word indifferently, raised her eyelids to look at me. I heard every word on the phone, but strangely, my heart was calm. I pretended not to hear and lowered my head to drink the porridge in my bowl. On the other end, Mr. Lewis was still saying in a panic that the young master had lost a lot of blood. Chen Yanxi said 4 words lightly. Dump him in the hospital. After hanging up the phone, he asked me, the porridge was good, you had 2 bowls. I was surprised to realize that I had drunk 2 bowls of porridge to ease the awkwardness, but Chen Yang's words seemed to misunderstand. He thought I was nervous about Ethan. He got up, grabbed his coat, and said, "Don't worry, he won't die." Then he got up to go to the hospital. It just occurred to me that Nathan is Ethan's only relative, so he should go to the hospital to see him. But what does that have to do with me? I don't care whether he lives or dies anymore. I was about to explain to Chen Yanxi that I wasn't worried about Ethan when he had already gotten into the car. For some reason, he slammed the car door especially hard. Even Renyu was startled. He muttered, "He was fine just now, what's wrong with him?" I don't understand Chen Yanxi at all. He's always been such a temperamental person. When I was little, even when I was having fun playing with Ethan, he would suddenly get angry and suddenly wouldn't let us play anymore. After eating and drinking my fill, I pulled out my phone and casually turned it on, only to see dozens of missed calls from Ethan and 99 plus messages on WeChat. Almost all of them were 60-second voice messages. I frowned, too lazy to open them and listen. It was probably just him scolding me for not making soup for Luna. In his mind, it was only natural for me to take care of him and take care of Luna. In the past, I would force myself to do things I didn't like because I was afraid of upsetting him. I would lower myself to please anyone for his sake. But now, I no longer care whether he is happy or not, whether he will quarrel with me because of it. I just find it strange and unexpected. He has never proactively sent me so many WeChat messages or made so many phone calls. Even when he was extremely angry, he would just disappear. It was always me who sent him WeChat messages and called him. Every time, I was the one who humbled myself to coax him. And it would take days of coaxing for him to come back. When he did, he would ask me what I did wrong until I said I was wrong about everything. Only then would he condescendingly say, "Don't do it again next time." Moreover, in the past, when I sent him WeChat messages or called him, he rarely replied. Occasionally, if he was in a good mood, he would reply with a few nonsensical words like "okay." Looking back, he must have felt the same way I do now, disgusted, impatient, and unwilling to even take a second glance. But I wasn't as hypocritical as him. I didn't even listen to those voice messages. I couldn't even be bothered to pretend. I simply hung up the phone with a bang. I went upstairs to sort through some things. I can't take that much stuff with me to Tibet for teaching. I was worried about where to put it all. Now that I think about it, leaving it with Nathan is perfect. I packed the things I need to take into several large boxes and prepared to ship them over first. I had just finished packing when Luna called me. I answered the phone almost unconsciously. Before I could even put the phone to my ear, Luna's scolding came through. "Grace, you crazy woman. Are you addicted to acting? Do you think that if you go out and hide for a few days, AE will come looking for you? You crazy, insane, bitch." For every curse she hurled, I just responded with an "oh." I didn't want to argue with her. That would make me seem as crazy as she is. But listening to the sound of her frantic voice on the other end of the phone, I felt strangely comfortable. She hurled some very harsh words at me, but suddenly, it sounded like the phone was thrown to the ground with a bang, and then there was no more sound. As dusk approached, Chen Yanxi returned. Just as he arrived, the delivery man came to pick up my boxes. "Are you sending something?" he asked, not even taking off his coat, his brow slightly furrowed. My obedient teacher answered, telling Nathan about my going to Tibet for volunteer teaching. After listening, he asked, "Because Ethan isn't me," which was also the truth. I've wanted to go to Tibet as a volunteer teacher for many years. Back then, When my parents traveled there, they were saved by kind locals. Otherwise, they would have died in that desolate place, and I wouldn't have even seen them one last time. I've always wanted to go and see, or rather, I've always wanted to repay their kindness, but in the past, Chen also wouldn't allow it, and I really couldn't bear to leave him. But now that I've broken up with Chen, it's just the right time to fulfill this wish. When are you leaving? Chen Yang asked me again, then suddenly paused and counted on his fingers to remember. 5 days later. I said that too many things had happened in the past few days, so many that I was starting to forget some of them. And I was about to forget some people. Nathan's eyes lingered on me, with a somewhat ambiguous look, seeing that I was busy instructing the courier on what needed to be handled carefully. Chen Yanxi stood aside and watched me quietly. About an hour later, I clapped my hands. Okay, all done, everything's been sent, so I can just grab a bag and go. Seeing my smiling face, Chen Yanxi suddenly asked me, "Aren't you going to ask how he is?" Only then did I remember that Chen Yi had also fallen. After all, I don't have any deep hatred for Ethan. Of course, the most intimate thing we shared was that passionate kiss. Before we could take it any further, he left me for a cat. Thinking of this, I'm suddenly glad. I really have to thank him for leaving me for a cat. Thinking of this, I perfunctorily asked how he was, and Chen Yanxi also perfunctorily replied that he was fine. I didn't want to delve into it. Whether he was okay or not had nothing to do with me from now on. Anyway, I was leaving soon, and there would be no more interaction with him from now on. It would be good if everyone was well. Actually, if Nathan hadn't brought it up, I wouldn't even remember it. This was a huge deal to me before, but now that Chen also fell a few hours ago, I actually forgot. It turns out that once some people leave your heart, they can never come back. I find it funny myself, seeing that I wasn't worried at all. Chen Yanxi's face warmed up, and he asked me with a smile that wasn't quite a smile, "Can you scold people?" What? I was dumbfounded. You're going to such a faraway place. What will you do if you can't scold people? Chen Yanxi said to himself. I'll teach you how to scold people. What? I suspected I had misheard. He wants to teach me how to scold people, and he's someone who doesn't even say an extra word when he speaks. He shook his hand, and I noticed a bloody scratch on his palm. What happened to your hand? He hid his hand again, losing his usual noble and aloof demeanor. Like an elementary school student caught red-handed, tucking his hand behind his back, I suddenly thought of the sound of Luna smashing her phone while yelling at me earlier. No need to guess, it must have been Chen Yanxi who did it. You heard Luna yelling at me. Tibet is so far away. How will you take care of yourself? We both spoke almost simultaneously, saying words that reminded me. I bit my lip, holding back from laughing, but feeling inexplicably happy inside. This way. It's safer for me to go to Tibet with you. Me, I was incredulous, my eyes widening, but Chen Yanxi straightened his back and said, "It's settled then." Oh right, you still haven't answered my question. I suddenly remembered when he asked me what I thought of him. And just as I was racking my brains trying to figure out how to answer, he switched to an even more direct question. Have you ever considered being my girlfriend? I suddenly tensed up, took a deep breath, but it was strange. I didn't feel embarrassed, just my heart was pounding and I was sweating profusely. Are you afraid I'll do something stupid? After a long while, I asked this question. From childhood to adulthood, Nathan has been like an elder to me. I think he was afraid that I would be inconsolable after breaking up with Chen Yi, and then impulsively go to Tibet. But Chen Yanxi suddenly became serious. The Grace I know wouldn't be so distraught over a man. I like you, I've liked you since I was little. He said, word by word, his eyes sparkling. I suddenly understood why he didn't throw away my old things. Why did he know that I needed to hold those things to fall asleep as a child? I just never found a chance to tell you. I didn't make a move before because you were too young. And later because I was happy to see you with Ethan. But now it's clear he doesn't want to waste any more time. You've grown up, and I love you. Adult love doesn't need so much coyness. Trust me, I'll make you happy. I suddenly felt dizzy, yet inexplicably felt that the last sentence carried some kind of sibling love. In the past, because of Ethan, I never spared a second glance for any other boy around me. My heart and eyes were only on him. But in the end, my youth was wasted, looking at Nathan. who was taller and more handsome than Ethan. I suddenly wanted to be brave for once, Nathan said. Same as always, think it over tonight. I interrupted him directly. No need to think it over, Chen Yang ci. Let's give it a try. In the hospital, Chen Yi woke up. He was fine, just a little weak from taking care of Luna for several days without eating or sleeping properly, and he missed a step. But now, his mind was filled with what Grace had said. If he moved out, it would prove that there was no one she loved in that family anymore. Moreover, Mr. Lewis next to him said that Grace hadn't come since she fainted. Chen Yi panicked even more. Before, even if he accidentally scratched himself, Grace would be very nervous, even trembling and turning pale. But now, even though someone told her that he had fallen down the stairs, she didn't even come to the hospital to see him. Ethan's heart felt like it was clenched tightly, hurting terribly. He frantically searched for his phone, opened the Grace chat. But at that moment, he didn't see any messages from Grace. He smashed the phone like a madman. Luna just walked in from the door and was hit right on the head. He covered his face and cried out, peeking at Ethan's reaction as he used to, waiting for Ethan to rush over and anxiously ask him if he was okay. But Ethan didn't even look at him, just pulled out the needle and was about to walk out. Luna stopped him. "Aye, you're injured, but you won't die." Chen also muttered something, shook him off and rushed downstairs. He was going to find Grace. He was going to ask Grace to clarify when she was going to stop making trouble. He was going to tell Grace that his patience was limited. Halfway there, Chen also saw the flower shop by the roadside. The clusters of colorful flowers were particularly eye-catching. Ethan suddenly remembered that he had never given Grace flowers, whether it was Grace's birthday or any other random holiday. He seemed to have never given Grace flowers. He pinched himself self-deprecatingly, asking himself how he could have never given Grace flowers. At this moment, he finally remembered the engagement, and his heart twinged. He finally realized that he might have been wrong too. The scene from that night replayed in his mind like a movie. When said her cat had diarrhea, Grace fell, and he left her and ran away. This time, his first reaction was, how could he leave Grace for a cat? Thinking of this, Chen also frowned, regret appearing in his eyes, followed by a hint of relief. Fortunately, it was not too late. Thinking this, he asked the driver to stop the car. This time, he wanted to personally decorate the engagement venue and personally select Grace's favorite flowers. But when he walked into the flower shop, he was stunned. He was thinking, what kind of flowers does Grace like? After thinking for a long time, he wanted to slap himself. For more than 20 years, he didn't even know what kind of flowers Grace liked, seemingly to make up for it. He asked the flower shop owner to send all the most expensive flowers over and redo the arrangement. The car dust also turned around and went straight home. He had to arrange the engagement scene first, and then pick up Grace. This time, he would definitely give her a big surprise, apologize to her properly, and keep his distance from Luna. Grace would definitely forgive him as before, and then come back. Thinking like this, he ignored his bleeding wound and personally arranged the scene bit by bit. At this moment, when also returned home and was stunned when she saw Ethan, she pitifully called out to Yi, but Chen Yi didn't bother to look at her and asked her, "Why are you here?" Luna's heart clenched. He had told her to treat this place like home, but now he was asking why she had come. Seeing Ethan's bleeding wound, Luna walked over and grabbed Ethan. She said, "Grace said that if she moved away, it would prove that she doesn't love you." Ethan's hand paused, and then he slapped Luna to the ground. "Shut up." A few seconds later, Ethan realized that Grace had said those words to him in his room. "How would Luna know that you were eavesdropping on my conversation with Nan?" Realizing she had let something slip, Luna stammered, I. Chen also shouted, kicking him away. "Nan and I are getting engaged soon, so you better not be here. It would be best if you didn't appear in front of Nan again." After Chen Yi finished speaking, Wen began to cry with tears streaming down his face. He raised his small face, full of grievance, and asked, "Auntie, how can you treat me like this? You weren't like this before." But Chen Yi had no time to care about him. Thinking back to the past, he felt absurd and confused. He only wanted to coax Grace back. This time, he lowered his head, took the initiative, and coaxed her with the biggest surprise. Thinking like this, he quickly typed out a small apology essay on his phone and sent it over. He firmly believed that Grace would be very moved when she saw it and would rush home. As evening approached, Nathan suddenly said he wanted to take me to the beach to watch the sunset. He brought me a dress from the room. When I put it on, he frowned and nitpicked, "It's a bit short." His eyes moved downwards, making my face flush, but he said with interest, "But it looks really good." I retorted him, "And a bit old too. These past 2 days since I agreed to be with Nathan, I've had a strange feeling. Our chemistry is inexplicably perfect. He knows what I want to do with just a glance. Being by his side gives me a sense of security I've never felt before, but this man who seems aloof and abstinent on the surface can't help but be a tease, like right now." He immediately rolled up his sleeves, revealing his muscular arms, and swept me off my feet. "Who are you calling old?" He couldn't help but smile as he realized the style of my dress, and he just wouldn't put me down. "Can something bought 10 years ago not be old? Why didn't you give it to me 10 years ago then?" I blurted out, but Chen Yanxi hugged me into the car, lowered his head to fasten my seatbelt, and then looked at my face, pursed his lips and said I was shy. God knows how much I wanted to laugh. Chen Yanxi would actually be shy. I suddenly wanted to tease him. When we arrived at the seaside, the setting sun had just fallen. The afterglow of the setting sun, the sunset glow, was intoxicating. I took his hand and asked him proactively, "Can you take off your shirt and carry a backpack for me to see?" He looked at me blankly, and couldn't help but tug at his tie. I held back my laughter and continued to tease him. "Don't you know this meme? There is a handsome guy who is shirtless and carrying a backpack on the beach. He is both handsome and slow." Before I could finish speaking, Nathan's suit jacket had already been thrown on the ground. His face full of eagerness to win, he unbuttoned his shirt, took it off in 2 seconds, and put on his backpack. He stood opposite me, opened his arms and asked me, "Is she better looking than me?" I was dumbfounded. Is he so generous? A handsome and tall figure, a strong physique, developed muscles. Piece by piece of pectoral muscles and abdominal muscles, I was pulled back by the continuous sound of WeChat, impatiently took out my phone and clicked it open, but saw a video sent to me by Ethan. The video was a luxurious engagement scene. Big words were written, Grace-Ethan engagement ceremony. Inside was filled with various kinds of roses, and in front of each pot of roses was also placed a pot of succulents. Along with it was a small essay of hundreds of words sent by Ethan. I didn't have the patience to read it, so I directly pulled it to the end. Chen also said that the venue for the male-male engagement is decorated according to your preferences. Remember to be there on time tomorrow. I know you will definitely come. I know you still love me. Can you please stop acting with my uncle? I promise you that I will stay away from Luna from now on, and only protect you. He kept sending messages, but I was impatient. After reading them, I couldn't help but snort coldly. My preferences are that I don't like roses, nor do I like succulents. The person who likes roses is Luna, and the person who likes succulents is also Luna. Before Luna appeared, he didn't remember all my preferences. After Luna appeared, he imposed Luna's preferences on me. It was clearly succulents grown for Luna, but he insisted on shoving that half-dead pot to me, and then said it was specially grown for me. Thinking of this, I feel inexplicably disgusted. I no longer believe or care about his promises. Now I just want to have a good relationship, one where he loves me, I love him, and we respect each other. As for Chenyi, it feels like a long time ago. I haven't even thought of him these past 2 days, but he just had to come and disgust me. Who? Nathan is already dressed, he asked me. His eyes are bright, full of smiles. I looked up to meet his gaze, the gloom in my heart swept away, just an insignificant person. Chen Jiachen was also formally dressed, holding flowers, his eyes full of anticipation. Before any guests arrived, he would stand on tiptoe and look towards the door, waiting for Grace to appear in the haute couture dress he had prepared, but was disappointed time and time again. He raised his hand to check his watch, and then consoled himself, "It's okay, it's not time yet. Grace will definitely come." Ethan's brother joked with him, "Young Master Chen, you're already an old married couple. What are you nervous about? It's not like you're a young virgin anymore. Ha ha ha, you and Grace have been familiar enough to wear out countless bedsheets. right? Everyone laughed, but Ethan remained cold-faced and couldn't laugh. No one knew that he and Grace had never crossed that final line. Ethan thought of that night again. He had pressed his warm lips to Grace's as usual, but that night, Grace seemed to have made up her mind about something. Responding passionately and even taking the initiative to wrap her arms around his neck, letting his hands reach inside her clothes. Thinking of this, Chen wanted to slap himself a few times. Grace was clearly ready to give herself to him, but he pushed her away for Luna, a cat, and even left. Ignoring her injuries, Ethan's nails were about to draw blood from his palms, but the teasing voices hadn't stopped. Young Master Chen, there's still Luna. Just move on to the next one when you're tired of this one. Chen went crazy after hearing this. He rushed over and punched the person, knocking out a tooth. Shut up. The person I love is Grace. I'm just taking care of Luna for my dead brother. The discussions in the crowd couldn't be suppressed. Even though the minister was not to be trifled with, people who couldn't stand it still started talking. Someone said, probably his brother's coffin lid can't be held down anymore. His own wife is about to be taken care of in bed. Yes, he loves Grace, loves her so much that he doesn't even glance at the diamonds he bought back for tens of millions, loves her so much that he left her alone on the highway in stormy weather, loves her so much that Grace never accompanies him to the hospital when she has a fever or is injured. Only Grace loves him enough to endure it. If it were me, I would have run away long ago. Chen heard every word from the crowd clearly. His fists clenched tighter and tighter, and his molars were almost crushed, but the most devastating words were yet to come. Someone said that he didn't even know that Grace liked sunflowers when they got engaged. Now he's always buying Luna's favorite roses and succulents. He's really disgusting. As they spoke, almost half an hour had passed. But Grace still hadn't appeared. Chen went mad. He began to smash things wildly, smashing the roses, smashing the succulents, smashing everything to smithereens, driving everyone away. Then, looking at his bleeding hands, he broke down and cried, his heart feeling like it was being cut by a dull knife, repeatedly torn with pain. So Grace liked sunflowers. After all these years, he didn't even know Grace liked sunflowers, even though he had planted one in the yard. He suddenly remembered when that sunflower had been uprooted and thrown into the trash can. It turned out everyone thought he had crossed the line with Luna. Ethan suddenly thought of Grace, and every time she argued with him because of Luna, he would think Grace was suspicious, unreasonable, even being pretentious and dramatic. He never thought that he was the problem. He couldn't say what he felt for Luna, he just felt sorry for her. He had promised his brother to take care of her, and he had to be responsible for her to the end. Thinking of this, Chen felt a lump in his throat. Actually, in the beginning, he knew he had to maintain a boundary, but every time he saw Grace's jealous look, he felt a strange pleasure. He liked the feeling of Grace caring about him, being nervous about him, and compromising for him. Over time, he even began to enjoy it. Chen slapped himself hard twice, ruffled his hair, and kicked the roses and succulents on the ground again and again. He thought, Grace must be angry seeing these roses and succulents. If he decorated a luxurious and grand sunflower engagement banquet, Grace would definitely come back, right? Chen couldn't wait to find Grace. He wanted to tell her that this time he would really decorate according to her preferences. We're setting off tomorrow. Chen Yang resigned to handle some loose ends at the company, and I'm at home packing up some odds and ends. Luna came without being invited. I was surprised and looked behind her, but Ethan wasn't there. I smiled slightly. With Ethan not around, he naturally wouldn't be polite to me. He stood at the door, his scarlet eyes fixed on me, as if I had stolen something very important from her. Why won't you let Ethan go? Why do you have to keep him by your side? Why won't you just give him to me? Why do you have to fight me for him? Don't you know he's the only one I can rely on? After he roared out these words, I found it all quite amusing. Chen is just a person. I can restrain him. Besides, I'm leaving tomorrow anyway. Chen can do whatever he wants. I simply don't want to bother. Seeing me chuckle, he raised his hand to strike me, but I grabbed his wrist and slapped him back. Enough, I ask myself. I haven't treated you poorly, so why do you insist on harming me? The WeChat message that led to your boyfriend's death, it was clearly you who sent it from my phone. Why do you refuse to admit it? I can't be bothered to argue with you. If you want to play pretend, go back and do it for Chen. Upon hearing this, Luna suddenly became smug. So what if I sent it? He shrugged and spread his hands, but Chen didn't believe it either. He was convinced you sent it. He thinks you're melodramatic, attention-seeking, and love to put on a show. Only you would do something so stupid. In his eyes, you're a fool and a cheapskate. And so what if Chen is biased towards me? Someone who's always at my beck and call. What can you do about it? Enough, I interrupted him. These words were making my head throb. I just felt annoyed. I don't love Ethan anymore. His words can't hurt me at all. Besides, I'm someone else's girlfriend now. And it's a bit inappropriate to be here listening to a crazy woman talk about her ex-boyfriend. I'm not interested in your business. If you really want to talk, go shout it in the street with that loudspeaker. Turn left at the door. Goodbye. Luna was choked by my words, her face turning green and white with anger. As I turned around, Luna wasn't about to let me go. She rushed up, wanting to slap me, when a figure darted out from the side. With a loud smack, Luna was knocked to the ground. This slap had no mercy, even knocking out Luna's molar. Ethan, his face full of gloom, stepped forward and kicked Luna, shouting, "It's you, it's all you, it's all your fault that I wrongly accused Nan Nan. It's you who made Nan Nan misunderstand me. If it weren't for you, Nan Nan wouldn't have run away from home. It's all your fault. You bitch, get out of here, and don't let me see you again." Ethan's face was almost twisted with anger as he pushed all the blame onto Luna, never mentioning his own problems from beginning to end. I couldn't help but think, does a clap sound with only one hand? If you had just trusted me once, would any of this have happened? But no matter what I said, you never believed me, not even a word. If you really loved me, cared about me, how could you be so inconsiderate of my feelings? But it doesn't matter anymore, because I don't care either. As soon as it's light, I'm leaving with my Nathan. Luna had never seen Ethan like this before, and she was completely stunned. But Ethan didn't even bother to give her a look of disgust. He just waved his hand, instructing the driver to throw her far away. As the driver dragged Luna up, she finally came to her senses. She knelt on the ground, pathetically clutching at Ethan's trouser leg, begging incessantly, "Ethan, Ethan, I didn't mean it." She was acting as she always did, but I felt annoyed and turned to leave. At that moment, Ethan raised his foot and kicked Wen away. He rushed up to me, pulling me close, his eyes instantly reddening. Only then did I realize that Ethan's hands were trembling, his lips quivering as well. With a shaky voice, he pleaded with me. "Will you please come back with me? I promise I'll change this time. Can you please believe me?" The moment Ethan's hand touched me, I recoiled as if shocked by electricity. Looking at his face, which once softened my heart with just a hint of redness, I felt a sudden wave of nausea. It turns out that when you no longer love someone, you truly can't stand any physical contact with them. Seeing me flinch away, Ethan burst into tears. "Nan Nan, I'm sorry." "Okay." He grabbed me again, begging incessantly, "I'm sorry. I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have used Luna to make you jealous, shouldn't have abandoned you for his cat, but I was just out of my mind at that moment. I don't know what was wrong with me. Nan Nan, please come home with me." "Okay, I know now that you don't like roses and succulents. I know you like sunflowers. Come home with me. I'll plant a large field of sunflowers for you." "Okay, if you think the house isn't big enough, I'll buy you a piece of land. Plant it all with sunflowers. I'll report to you 24 hours a day from now on. I'll never think you're long-winded or old-fashioned again." He looked into my eyes, filled with deep affection, and spoke with heartfelt sincerity, every word imbued with his love. Yet, my heart remained unmoved, my mind only echoing with the belated sentiment that deep affection is cheaper than grass. I'm already someone else's girlfriend, and you're here saying these things to me. It's disgusting. Just as I couldn't shake off Ethan's hand, Nathan finally returned. He strode out of the car, his long legs carrying him as he stepped out, and with a slap, sent Ethan flying, his face a mask of anger I had never seen before. "What are you doing here? Get out of here." For some reason, seeing Nathan, I felt inexplicably aggrieved, the tip of my nose stinging, as if I had been bullied for a very, very long time. When Chenyi got up, Nathan grabbed his collar and shouted sternly, "You are not allowed to see Grace again." The eyes of both men turned red at the same time. And Chenyi also clenched his fists. "Grace is mine, and I will take her home." Nathan threw a punch. "She's not yours anymore, she can only be mine from now on." Chenyi was stunned. Blood dripping from the corner of his mouth, watching Nathan shake his hand, I went over and took his arm. "Forget it, let's go." With just a look from me, the previously fierce Nathan softened. He squeezed my palm and said, "Okay." We turned around and went inside. Chenyi finally came back to his senses and said, "I know you're acting with my uncle. You're testing my patience, aren't you? I will prove it to you. I will wait for you here forever." Chen Yangci closed her eyes upon hearing this, and waved to Mr. Lewis. Mr. Lewis understood immediately and dragged Chenyi out, but he still refused to leave and kept shouting my name outside. I suddenly became afraid that he would keep pestering me like this in the future, so I said to Nathan, "I don't want anyone to know about our trip to Tibet." Chen Yangci reached out and pinched my face. "I promise, not even a mosquito will know." When he raised his hand, I saw the redness on the back of his hand, and my heart tightened. I held his big hand and asked, "Does it still hurt?" But he held my hand in return, bringing it to the position of his heart, his brow slightly furrowed. "It hurts here, seeing you being bullied. It hurts here. I will never let anyone bully you again." The tears that I had been holding back for a long time suddenly fell, large drops falling on the back of his hand. For so many years, I devoted myself to Ethan, living each day like a resentful woman trapped in the harem. At that time, I thought loving someone was probably this tiring, but it turns out loving someone can be so easy and enjoyable. It turns out being loved and cherished is this kind of feeling. "Nathan." I gently held the hand he brought to my heart, and called out his name, but the man's body instantly stiffened, and the force of his heartbeat felt like it could shake my hand away. Holding my breath, I looked up at him and, standing on my tiptoes, gently touched his lips. Alright, that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. We'll keep updating with more exciting stories, and we look forward to seeing you next time.